Hey folks, Madamus here. I'm going to give you guys a tour of our pig enclosure today, give you a sense of what I've put together for keeping our large black hogs. Let's check it out. I'm going to walk around, kind of giving an overlay of what we've put together here. It is a lot more than what we currently need, with the idea that it gives us room to grow. Something that has taken 10 years probably to figure out is that you should build your enclosures and your structures, the things that you're going to want to use to house your animals around the farm before you get the animals. So we had some pigs already, and of course we were underprepared, and so we were lucky enough to get a grant from the government 2 years ago, which covered 75% of our costs for installing all of this pig enclosure. So for all the fencing, posts, electric fencer, all the stuff. And so we went big with the idea that we would have plenty of room to grow. For us, our goal is to get to a pig operation where we have 4 sows and anywhere between 1 and 2 boars doing their job, and that's kind of the level where things become economically viable. Otherwise, the cost to keep a boar and to keep the sows over the winter is prohibitive, basically, because you have to feed an animal for 12 months of the year when he only really needs to do his job for 1. So the same thing goes for cows, and that's the argument why not to keep a bull, or one of the arguments. Again, when we are dealing with endangered heritage breeds, you often don't have that luxury. The thing about endangered heritage breeds is that genetics and the genetic pool is often very small, meaning that you often have to keep your own breeding stock. Farms that are just looking to grow meat, you buy a bunch of wiener pigs, you raise them up, you send them to market. You don't keep any animals over winter, you're not housing, you're not feeding for that extra period of time. When you're breeding, when you're preserving, when you're raising your own, there's an extra caution that has to be taken on the economic and the financial side. Otherwise, you're raising pet pigs. So let's jump into it. Brief overview. I have our area set up in sections for our growing pigs, which is what's behind me now, and a separate section for the sows and the boar. So let's take a look. So you can see here, this is our grower pig area. So these pigs have what will be just over 14 acres of this little paddock area and all that bush in behind. So I have put the fencing up and I've installed it in. We're just waiting on having enough pigs that it makes it viable to let them out in that whole area. They'll clean that up and really do a good job at it. I'm looking forward to it. So we just have 4 smaller weaners right now. They're going to market in May. And so I have kind of fenced off. It's hard to see, but basically on the bush line just over there, I have put a line of temporary electric just so that they're kind of stuck into this area. Just going to make it easier for us when we want to load them up in May to send them off to freezer camp. We got this barrel. I think what I was told is it's a old fuel barrel from maybe like a gas station or something. And my neighbor Leonard got it like 50 years ago. He was using it for feed for his cows, horses, whatever he had over the years. He would just pour the feed into it and then dig it out. He had it kind of stuck behind his barn, and so we got it last year, brought it over here and dumped it off, and it works perfect for the pigs. It's a great little area for them, and it was readily available. So I use electric fence for all of the pigs except for around the main area. That I have 4x2 wire fence, and kind of cedar posts. However, we do still use the electric fence on the inside. A lot of this is to keep people out rather than it is to keep the animals in. So when we have guests up at our yurt, or when we're doing tour days with people, it's kind of that extra safeguard between the people and the pigs. If you've ever raised pigs, however, you know that they are escape artists, no matter what breed you have. And so it does give that extra layer of protection right around the garden area and the road, and a little bit of peace of mind. You can kind of see here where I transition from the regular fence into, but I do have one line, it's hard to see, one line of electric that runs across, and then we transition into the 2 line of electric. And the same thing, I have 3 lines going around the whole perimeter. The bottom 2 are hot, and the top being a ground, and that goes around the whole 14 acres. The nice thing about the grower enclosure that we have is there is the runoff from our spring-fed pond. We are lucky here. We have a pond. It's completely spring-fed, so the extra runoff in the spring, most of the time by the end of the summer it does kind of dry up, but it has to be a pretty hot summer for that to happen. Otherwise, there's always a little bit of water in here, enough for a wallow and a good solid drink. You get a good look at the barrel that they have to live in. It stays nice and cool. Hey, buddy. Stays nice and cool in the summer, and it's a great shelter for the winter. At the very back, I'll take you in through the back. At the very back of the 2 enclosures, I have a gate. And this is so when we do farrow, that we can move the young weaner pigs into the grower area at the right time, when they're kind of old enough to be separated and be on their own. This lets us set up somewhat of an alleyway with the electric fence, and I can run the pigs all the way down, no matter where they are in the farrowing enclosure. The back part of the enclosure closest to the grower area is what I have sectioned off for the boar. I'm actually going to work on this a little bit, as I want to build a little bit of a better enclosure for the boar. So we will probably be doing that at the end of the year. You'll also see where the grower pigs in the winter have busted a hole through the existing fence due to the fact that the electric fence was basically buried in snow, and so where it was not adequate, and they were not getting enough grounding because of the snow. So that's something that we're working on here. We do get anywhere between like 2 and 4 feet of snow in the winter, and so yeah, so those are the kind of problems that can kind of occur that we are dealing with right now. So right now I have the boar, you can see him right over there, big old Albert. He's separated, and we are only using 1 line of the Gallagher fence. And we are using 1 line of Gallagher temporary electric fencing. You can kind of see it's I think it's the 8 strand or the 5 strand. It is not the cheapo 2 or 3 metal strand. That just does not cut it. And it runs around the whole enclosure. It's just keeping kind of him in this area. Now you'll also see this poultry netting. And so I use this as an additional fencing. So right now we're just keeping in the big old boar. And so 1 line of temp fencing is adequate enough. However, when we have the weaners and we are training the young pigs to the electric fence, the poultry netting keeps them from bolting. So I will actually run 2 lines. I just have this set up still from last winter, where if we were having a litter, if I had farrowed litter, I would be keeping this up, and I would keep one line kind of like that on the inside where the piglets are. And what that will do is it will train the piglets to the electric fence. And so piglets also kind of have this, and pigs in general, if they are not trained to electric fence, tend to bolt instead of stepping back. So you kind of have to train that into them. So if they get a shock, they want to take off. And if they do that, they will go right through your one line of electric fence. You can imagine, it'll just go right under that. It touches it, gets shocked, and it just takes off running. Now you have pigs that are out of the enclosure and do not want to go back in because of that electric fence that has scared them. So if you set this up, what'll happen is if they get shocked and they go forward, they're just going to get shocked even more. Or if they kind of try to sneak under the electric fence, they're going to get stuck because they have to deal with this poultry netting. And again, they're going to get shocked. Now, the beautiful thing about the large black hog is their big ears that make them partially blind. Now, they can see perfectly well under those ears. They have a good eyesight. However, the ears block their vision. And what that does is it makes them a lot more cautious of a pig. Other breeds, if they can see a way out, they will get out. However, the large black are very cautious. So once they have gotten a good old shock of electric fence, they are really going to respect that fence. And because of the poor eyesight, they will take their time going around the enclosure and checking things out, and they're very cautious. So when they do approach, that electric fence, they're very careful. And if they do get a shock, they will step back because we've trained them with the netting. And that's another benefit of the welded wire, is that it's the same thing. So I'll run electric fencing along the inside. I don't have it set up right now. We're just getting our gates finally set up the way I want them. So again, we have the nice big green gates which stop piglets and smaller pigs from bolting through. And then I have the stretch gates across each one. This has been designed to be split up into 4 sections. So we have 4 farrowing huts and 4 summer huts. And so the idea is that we can use the electric netting and the electric wire to section each area off. And they are a 100 by 50 foot sections, giving the pigs lots of room to farrow, to run around, and to have their litters. You'll see I have these kind of triangle post setups here, and they are for the water. And so I had set up these ICBM totes, and we were using the kind of lock clamps and had them running into a 1/2-inch hose and hooked up into the waterers. That worked okay. I was filling them off the pond water. However, we'd have to clean them fairly often. It was getting kind of scuzzy. So this one I have set up currently for this sow. And you can kind of see the way it's set up. It's really pieced together, and some water, right? So that works pretty good, but I am going to switch it up this year. We are digging a line from the greenhouse where I have water now, and I'm going to run that down to the enclosure here, set up a frost-free hydrant, and then plumb those directly into the nipples so that I'm not dealing with the totes and I'm not having to set up that line, because we're also changing the way we do the irrigation in the garden, and that will change that whole setup as well. So that's our pig enclosure. It looks a little empty at the moment, but we do have 4 pigs in the barn right now that we had gotten last season. and I had kept them in there over the winter just so I could get familiar with them and they could be familiar with me and we could grow them up. They are all breeders, they are all registered, and so I just wanted to keep a good eye on them. With that being said, we still have 2 registered boars now and 2 registered gilts and a registered sow for the Large Black Hog. And so we're really hoping for some good pairings this summer, some really good luck, and some awesome litters. And that will be great. We'll be able to move everybody out here. They got 14 acres for the growers and plenty of space for Mum and the boars. Looking forward to it. Working to preserve and conserve endangered heritage breeds is not easy work, and your support on our channel means a lot to us. It really helps our mission. It spreads the word of why these animals are so important to be kept for small farmers and homesteaders, and why the work that us and so many others are doing to conserve and preserve these wonderful animals is important. So again, thank you so much for watching. I would really appreciate it if you would like this video. Leave us a comment about what you think we have done with our pig enclosures and your thoughts on them, if there's any improvements we can make, or if there are any questions. Thanks again for watching. Happy farming, and